Retro Rewind. Retro Rewind. One-on-one.
Hey, John, welcome to Retro Rewind.
Hey, good to be here.
So what are you up to today?
Well, today I have to go film a public service announcement, or as we here in showbiz land call them, PSAs.
Yeah, well, we call it that in Radio Land, too.
Oh, you do? They're very nice because they're
Yeah.
sort of little free commercials you do to put the information out there. And this is for United Cerebral Palsy. My mother was the first female vice president and she was one of the first vice presidents when it was formed in the early 50s by Leonard Goldenson. And my only brother Tom, who lived in Nashville for so long with Mom and Dad, he has it. He's doing great, by the way. I want to tell you, he's doing just fine. But we've got this little public service announcement talking about casual day. You come, dressed in your sweats to work, and you've sort of raised money for cerebral palsy, which is a sort of a fun idea. So I have to do that at 12.
Well, it's a fantastic cause, and you're involved in some more great causes too, aren't you?
Yeah, I was involved in the Hunger Project, which is trying to end hunger, and the ECHO, Earth Communications Organization, and we took a trip to the Amazon with a bunch of scientists, and we saw what the rainforest situation is firsthand, which never left my mind, and that was pretty interesting about the poor countries having to burn their forests to feed cattle or to sell lumber or clear out land for housing, and they don't have enough money to pay off our debt, and we're bitching to them about don't cut the rainforest, but meanwhile they have to make a living because they owe us so much money. So it's like the serpent biting its tail.
Yeah, really, huh? So what kind of stuff are you getting into now?
Well, I may do a play in Los Angeles that's written by Steve Martin called Wasp. And Steve Martin, everybody knows, is a great stand-up comedian and a fantastic actor and movie star and all of that. But he's an amazing writer, and two of his screenplays that come to mind are Roxanne and L.A. Story, which are two of my favorite movies of his. And he wrote these funny little one-act plays that a group of us were in Los Angeles and took to the Aspen Comedy Festival, where I'm happy to tell you guys are the first interview I've done. Since then, we won first prize, the jury prize for best play. So I'm real happy about that. And then so Steve Martin and I sort of clicked, and he would like me to maybe play the father in this other very touching family comedy that he wrote called Wasp.
Wow. Well, awesome. Good luck to you on that. You were on Buffy the Vampire Slayer a few weeks ago now, weren't you?
Oh, right. Yes. I played a very twisted stepdad who turns out to be non-human. And it was really fun. It was really fun it was the one set my kids asked to visit. Usually I said, come visit your dad. Oh, no, that's all right. The people there were so nice, and the kids who are in the high school aren't that much older than my two older ones, who are 18 and 16 now. My baby is 13, so all the kids, Buffy and the guy who plays Xander, whose name is Nick, and then all the other people were so nice to my kids, and they sort of sat in the makeup trailer and watched them put the prosthetics on the vampires and stuff. And it's just they've rented out this factory, and they just made a little movie studio only for their TV show. My girlfriend's on a show called All Right Already, which is the Warner Brothers network, and she, one of the presidents of Warner Brothers, came to the set, and they both called me and said that the Buffy was the highest rated Buffy the Vampire Slayer that they've ever had with me on. So I said, bring me back. They said, well, they killed you already. I said, but I had a ball. It was really fun playing such a twisted, sick guy.
Well, I've got to ask you about Three's Company. There's no way they'll let me off the air here without asking you about Jack Tripper. Did you ever live with two women?
I lived with two women, but it was just for a night and a day. I'm kidding. Then they kicked me out. No, I had enough of that on TV. It's hard enough with one, as you guys know. Either get a harem or a single. Two is tough, because there's always somebody being left out, if you know what I mean. But I had such a ball with that, and apparently there's going to be a book coming out this summer. I think it's titled something original, like "Come and Knock on My Door," or something like that. I don't know. Come and wipe up my floor. I don't know what it's called. It's the Three's Company, the first book that's out, and it's by this guy who wrote me a fan letter about 8 years ago, Chris, and he said, I am a fan of Three's Company, and he sent me a picture of himself with all this memorabilia, you know, posters and books and videotapes and bubblegum cards and, you know, dartboards. You know, I thought he was insane, but he was an honor student, and he had a real hip sense of humor. And I said, you're not humiliated to be known as a Three's Company guy? He said, no. And he published a little newsletter all by himself called the Roomy Report. And he had sort of a little Three's Company fan base. And I just said, man, you are really cool, and that's very good writing. And he said, well, I'd love to write a book. I said, well, you know, it's fine with me. Let me introduce you to some people. And it took him years and years and years, but he interviewed everyone except Priscilla Barnes, who said, I really don't have anything to say, leave me alone. And Suzanne Summers, he finally got her. And I think she's going to write a book herself, because her version and the other version of what happened when she left the show are not quite, you know, the same. So she's going to write her own book, but she also interviewed for hours. So it was, you know, and it talks about, you know, unfortunately it talks about the bad as well as the good, but for people who like Three's Company or who have nothing else to do with their lives can read the book.
Wow, that's awesome. I can't wait to check that out. What's your favorite episode? I mean, I know you did so many, but what's your favorite one?
Oh, I guess it was the one where I meet Mary Carteret. I later did a spin-off called Three's a Crowd, and then there's one big hour show where I meet her and fall in love with her and then ask her to marry me, and she says no. And that's the one I got the Emmy for, and I think that's, if I'm pushed, I'd say that was my favorite, because I got to do a lot of different kinds of stuff in that, you know, from being airsick on a diving airplane to, you know, sort of being brokenhearted. And I never thought Three's Company would, you know, let me get serious, and it did. So I sort of appreciate that one, I think.
John, thank you so much for doing the show. You're one of my all-time heroes, and I appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having me on your show.
Well, it was my pleasure and my honor, so appreciate it, John. Hey, take care, man.
Okay, guys.
Retro Rewind.